Good morning and welcome everyone. Bonjour, bienvenue, Mino Giza, Bindigan. Thank you for joining us here today for this special announcement. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dan Hollingsworth and I'm the Executive Director of the Sault Ste. Marie Economic Development Corporation, and I have the distinct pleasure of being the MC for this event. We have a very special announcement today. In fact, in my 20-plus year career in economic development, this is probably one of the largest announcements I've been part of. Before I begin, I would like to recognize that we are on the traditional territory and lands of the Ojibwe Anishinaabe, including our friends at Garden River and Batchewana First Nations, as well as the Métis people of this region. In my NC duties, I normally have a detailed information and introduction about the speakers and their bios, but in this case, given the importance of the announcement today, I'm going to quickly proceed and introduce our speakers. We have a number of special guests here today, including Al Coutts to my left, CEO of Noront Resources Ltd. His name might give you a clue as to the nature of the announcement today. We have His Worship, Mayor Christian Provenzano. Welcome, Christian. I would also like to recognize to my far left, Mr. Michael Mcquaid, CEO of Algoma Steel. From the province of Ontario, we have my friend, MPP Ross Romano. And as well, to my far right, we have our Member of Parliament, Terry Sheehan. Welcome, Terry. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Alan Coutts, CEO of Noront Resources Ltd.
Thank you very much, Stan. Hello, everyone. Hello. Thank you for coming out this morning. I'd like to recognize the Mayor, MPP Romano, MP Sheehan. Thank you for accompanying me on this great announcement. After a lengthy and very thorough process that involved 4 Northern Ontario communities, I'm pleased to announce that Noront Resources has selected Sault Ste. Marie to be the site of its ferrochrome production facility. Thank you. The ferrochrome plant will be constructed to process chrome ore from deposits that Noront is developing in the Ring of Fire and will convert the ore into ferrochrome for export to the American stainless steel market. The plant will be constructed on the Algoma industrial property west of the main Algoma steel facility. Noront, with support from the engineering firm Hatch, evaluated 4 proposed sites for a variety of elements, including an appropriate brownfield site, the availability of infrastructure, including road, rail, gas, and water, adequate electrical supply, the presence of a skilled workforce, and broad support from the local community. These evaluations helped us to estimate the capital and operating cost of constructing a plant on the proposed site and to narrow down to 2 sites for further consideration, the Sault Algoma site and the Kidd Met site in Timmins. In the final analysis, the net present value of the project was similar at both sites. Timmins was slightly lower in capital cost, and Sault had a lower operating cost. When we factored in the potential 100-year life of the operation, the lower operating cost clearly tipped the balance in favor of Sault Ste. Marie. The next steps will be to conduct a pre-feasibility study based on the selected site and to start a series of public engagements with the local community. A full feasibility and environmental assessment will ensue that will last roughly 3 years in duration. Critical to the advancement of the project is the completion of the all-season access road to the Ring of Fire that's currently being advanced by the provincial government and their First Nation community partners. Noront estimates that the construction of the ferrochrome production facility to commence in 2025 with plant commissioning in 2028. During construction, the project will employ up to 1,500 people, and while operating will employ between 300 and 500 individuals. On behalf of Noront Resources, please allow me to express my thanks and gratitude to the excellent city team led by Mayor Provenzano, Dan Hollingsworth, and Tom Bear, and the support and encouragement of MPP Romano, MP Sheehan, and Michael Mcquaid at Algoma Steel. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here and make this announcement today. Thank you.
Thanks, Al. Over the past couple of years, I've had the distinct pleasure of working with the entire team at Noront on the development of this project, and congratulations. I'd also like to recognize Steve Llewellyn, who's with us here today from Noront as well. Our next speaker is Mayor Christian Provenzano, who most of you, I'm sure, know quite well. I have personally appreciated the support that the Mayor and City Council has provided to our team that led us to this announcement today. The Mayor rolled up his sleeves and worked lockstep with us since the first meeting with Noront in 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Christian Provenzano.
Good morning, everyone. It is great to be here with all of you today. There are a number of City Council members here with me. I'd like to acknowledge them in no particular order as I see them. Councillor Margie Bruni, Councillor Rick Nero, Councillor Matt Shoemaker, Councillor Luke Dufour. I don't want to miss any councillors. Oh, Councillor Donna Hilsinger. Thank you for coming today. I also want to recognize Mayor of Prince Township, Ken Lamming. Thank you, Ken, for your attendance. I want to recognize my colleagues, MPP Ross Romano and MP Terry Sheehan, and I want to thank them both for their support and their advocacy throughout this process. I want to welcome and recognize the President and CEO of Noront Resources, Alan Coots, and Chief Development Officer, Stephen Llewellyn. We are happy that both of you are here with us today. I want to recognize Michael Mcquaid, Algoma Steel CEO. Michael has only been with us a short while, but his early commitment to this process and our work is key to today's announcement. We could not have done this without Algoma Steel. This is obviously a big announcement and a good news day for our community. It confirms what we know and believe to be true. Sault Ste. Marie is a great place to do business. It also confirms something that is, from my perspective, just as important. When we work together, we succeed. In November 2017, Noront put out a request for information to specific communities, giving those communities the opportunity to provide the information Noront required to assess where it would develop its ferrochrome production facility project, a $1 billion economic infrastructure project. With the support and direction of City Council, the City and the EDC put together a team and assembled the resources that we needed to compete. In this respect, I want to thank and recognize Dan Hollingsworth, Devin Bukonjic, and Mark Capagioni from the EDC, Ali Brown, formerly of Tourism Sault Ste. Marie, Joe Malesic from BDO, Rick Telvidi from ACOM, Rob Reed from NSI, Rob Brewer from the PUC along with his team, Al Horseman, Malcolm White, Tom Ver, Jordan Allard, and Lisa Bell from the city. What our team heard Noront say was this: show us the path forward for this project in your community. We let that direction guide our work, along with a second principle. We believe that amidst the numbers, the positions we took regarding strategic advantages, proximity to end market, the discussions of rail and barge and infrastructure and labor, the big buckets of operating costs and capital costs, amidst all of that analysis and the comparisons between the communities, we had to establish that our community is a competent and capable project partner. We had to show Noront that if they chose to move forward with Sault Ste. Marie, they were choosing an effective team, that Sault Ste. Marie is an effective team. Today's announcement is a testament to that idea and its reality. We have been through a difficult few years. Some of our largest employers have struggled, and that struggle has naturally led to some insecurity. We faced that struggle by working together and working through it, and we are now very clearly rounding the corner. We can be excited about today's announcement. There is a lot to be excited about. The potential of hundreds of new, good-paying, high-quality jobs. The development of a new, state-of-the-art production facility in our community. Stability for our local economy, and long overdue growth in our industrial assessment base. So I am glad for that excitement, and I encourage it. However, as is my nature, I encourage that it is measured. It is important to recognize that today's announcement marks the end of one stage of a process and the beginning of another. There is still much more work to do and many things that have to happen before this project becomes an actuality. We should not and cannot get ahead of ourselves. There are many years of work ahead. Provincial and federal assessment processes, economic assessments, environmental assessments, permitting, community and First Nation engagement and consultation. People will naturally and understandably want to know about any impacts of another heavy industrial process in our community. We are committed to working with our community to address any questions it may have, and I am confident that we have a partner in Noront that shares that commitment. I'm confident that our community will come to know the executive team at Noront the way I have. They are forthright, they are professional, they are transparent, and they are respectful. Based on my experience with them, which I can now say is fairly extensive, I believe that they are committed to Northern Ontario, the First Nation communities in and around the Ring of Fire, the First Nation communities here that are our partners, and responsible environmental stewardship. The city looks forward to our continued relationship, supporting the success of Noront's activities and the FBF project. For our part, our commitment to both Noront and our community is that we will approach the next stage of this project in the same manner that we approach this one, sincerely, thoughtfully, and professionally. I expect that if we do, we can meet with the same success that we have today. In closing, I left this to last so I didn't get emotional. I want to thank and recognize my wife for her patience, because I'm often at work and not at home, so thank you.
Here, here. Thank you, Christian. And I have to say that his leadership over the last 2 years has been invaluable to our team in preparing and presenting our community proposal to Noront, as he states, is the path forward in Sault Ste. Marie. Congratulations to the city. Our next speaker is a recent addition to our community, and we are pleased to have him here today to say a few words on behalf of Algoma Steel. Please join me in welcoming Michael Mcquaid, CEO of Algoma Steel, to say a few words.
Good morning. We view the Noront project as an exciting opportunity for Sault Ste. Marie and Algoma Steel. There is potential for many economic synergies through the shared use of assets and services, and we look forward to exploring these options further with Noront, the city, and the many stakeholder groups who may be engaged in this project. As a newcomer to the city myself, I have quickly learned that Algoma Steel enjoys a strong relationship with city staff, the mayor, council, our member of parliament, and our member of provincial parliament. We have received excellent support from the regional academic institutions, the Chamber of Commerce, and the broader business community, including an excellent supplier base. Indeed, Sault Ste. Marie has been a wonderful home to Algoma Steel, our employees, and their families for over 100 years, and I'm confident that this community will extend the same warm welcome and ongoing support to Noront as they look to make Sault Ste. Marie their new home. We will now turn our minds to how we can maximize this opportunity for our community and what we at Algoma Steel can bring to the table. There will need to be much more dialogue as we seek to reach a greater understanding of the full potential of this project, and we look forward to working with all the parties. Alan, Stephen, and to your team, you have made the right decision. Welcome to the Soo.
Thank you, Michael, and we look forward to working with you and your team on this project moving forward. Our next speaker is no stranger to the Civic Centre. Ross Romano was a city councillor before being elected as the member of provincial parliament in 2017. Ross has been a strong advocate for the Noront project here in Sault Ste. Marie. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ross Romano to the podium.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here today. I want to just start by, again, acknowledging the territorial lands on which we are on, lands of the Ojibwe, lands of the Huron-Robinson Treaty, shared by Garden River and Batchewana in our community. I want to, first off, thank the other three cities that participated in the bid process, Thunder Bay, Sudbury, and Timmins. Obviously, Timmins being in the final site selection along with Sault Ste. Marie. While we are all very excited here today and have ample reason to be excited, obviously a bit of a struggle for the other communities, so I certainly want to recognize those communities and thank them for their efforts and thanking them for being part of the bid process. And I think it's also important to note that while this is amazing news for Sault Ste. Marie, the entire Ring of Fire process, the entire opportunity it presents is amazing news for Northern Ontario and for all communities throughout Northern Ontario. And it is good for us all. This is going to create jobs and opportunities throughout all of the North, and it's important that we never forget that. Well, I want to start off by just saying, wow. It's so exciting to be here in this type of a situation. I remember when I first started working on this project a few years ago, and somebody said, you know, oftentimes in the political world, when you get started on a project of a large magnitude, you often don't get to see it reach a point of fruition. And for me, certainly, I remember actually, I called Steve. Steve, I don't know if you remember this. I was a city councilor in Sault Ste. Marie. I'd just been elected, and I found your number at random. I called you up, and I started talking to you about the Ring of Fire and whether we could ever be a city that would be able to see the ferrochrome processing facility come to the Soo. And that was a brief phone conversation we had. And it was years later, I was in a by-election in Sault Ste. Marie as of December of 2016. And it was in May, actually, of 17 that Stephen and Al, on behalf of Noront, came into Sault Ste. Marie, and we had a meeting. And there was a meeting that was held at the Grand Gardens downtown. And Al and Steve met with all of the candidates that were running in the provincial by-election at that time. And they expressed a concern to me in that meeting. And they expressed a concern with Algoma Steel's site, given certain considerations that were going on through the process at CCAA that was causing concerns. So on June 1st, many of you have heard this before, I got elected June 1st of 17. And first thing I did was call up Al and Steve. And I was in their boardroom on June 5th, and I think we probably met at least a dozen times over the course of that summer. I became quite a pain in your proverbial butt, I suppose, Al and Steve. And we met numerous times at your boardroom table, and ultimately, I think from my perspective, it's so critical that we were out of the mix only a year ago because of the nature, or a few years ago, because of the nature of the concerns that were present. And by the time the summer of 17 ended, and I was just chatting with you about this outside, Al, before we came in here, you had that assurance that we could be in a position to to bid on this project. And by July of 18, we were shortlisted with Timmins, and here we are today, successful. I think what we need to remember is a lot of the times it's not the sexy, shiny stuff that you see that makes these projects work. It's all of the hard work behind the scenes. It's the incredible hard work of so many people behind the scenes that we never notice that brings projects like this to fruition. And it's so important to recognize the hard work that has been done by so many people to bring this project to the point that we find it at today. Dan Hollingsworth at the EDC and your team, I won't go through all of the names, but I know how hard you've been working on this. It's been incredible. Just have put together an amazing package on behalf of the city. When the bid was presented back last February 2nd, our mayor was really happy and proud of the job that you did putting that bid, presenting that bid to those at Noront. Certainly the work of so many people. I want to recognize the work of, we had set up a community support team through the provincial side for the bid process, and I see a number of them here today, and I want to thank them for all of their help and work on the file. But it is very important that while a ton of work has been done, this is not the end. this is only the beginning. The road ahead is a long one, and there is still a lot to be done. It's an exciting day for us, and it did not happen because of luck. It happened because of hard work of so many people, and the hard work will continue. And I really look forward to being a part of this moving forward and seeing the rest of what is going to come. Because again, I will end where I began. This is incredible news for all of Northern Ontario. This is demonstrating that we are open for business in the north. We are open for business in Sault Ste. Marie. We're open for jobs, and this is great news for the region. And I can't wait to see the next steps moving forward. Thank you again to everyone here, and thank you, Al, Steve, and your whole team at Noront for making the decision to do business in our community of Sault Ste. Marie. Thank you. And if I may, I neglected to mention one thing. I've been trying to pull this, and I may not have this stat exactly right, but this is the largest private investment that is happening in our city in, as far as I can remember, and I would hazard to say since the time of Clerg, putting together the steel plant, the paper mill, and the power facility, that this is the largest. This is not government dollars, people. Let's remember that. This is private investment into our community. Something we have waited for a very, very, very long time, and I am just so exhilarated to be a part of it today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross, and we appreciate the work that you've done, and thanks for being here today to take part in this special announcement. We continue to work with you and your government moving forward on this project, so thank you. Our final speaker is no stranger to this building either. Terry Sheehan spent 12 years in City Council before being elected Member of Parliament in 2015. Terry's been a strong supporter of the Noront project and has worked to ensure the competitiveness of the steel industry in Canada. Please join me in welcoming my friend, Terry Sheehan.
Wow, what an absolute amazing day, and it's so great to see so many people here to share some of the best news we've seen in Sault Ste. Marie in a very long time as it relates to business and economic development. As Dan mentioned, I've worked with Dan for a number of years in business and economic development in different levels, both here at the city, at the EDC, and the province at Northern Development Mines. And I can tell you that this is one of the most significant new developments. Certainly the restructuring of Algoma Steel was extremely important to the community as well. But as it relates to new developments, I would suggest to you that today's announcement is the first step, and a major first step. And having been in the business economic realm, I know that there is a bit of a journey ahead of us. But this is an important first step. And borrowing from the First Nations, it's the first step on a journey of 1,000 miles. But you have to make that first step. And the one thing, Al, that struck me from the first time I met you, right after being elected, you were one of the first people to present at the Northern Ontario Liberal Caucus meeting, was your commitment to your business, but how conscious and conscientious you were from that first meeting. To our last meeting, last week, in Ottawa. Al and I and Steve, and the rest of your team, Mr. Nolan, we've met numerous times down in Toronto, in Ottawa, in the Sault. And your total commitment to consult with the community and how important it was for community buy-in was so important. And Al had touched on the community buy-in. And I know for a fact, and I told you, that the community is hungry for business. And at the same time, we're also very, very conscious that it has to be done in a environmentally sustainable way, in consultations with the community at large and our First Nations and Indigenous people, the Métis. So right from the get-go, you had laid that plan out, you had laid that commitment out to it. So I was always confident in supporting you. And I appreciate the meetings that you've had with the PMO and other people on your project, and I can tell you that the 1,500 jobs for construction, the 300 to 500 jobs are important. And we can do this. For example, many of you were at the announcement I made about the Magino Gold project, an hour and a half from my riding. That's 550 construction jobs and about 350 permanent. Because our government knows, the federal government knows, that the economy and the environment go hand in hand. And we do that through robust consultations, which you have done. To Team Sault Ste. Marie, that's what it was. Thank you, Mayor. MPP Romano, thank you. Dan, Mike, Algoma Steel, Tom Bear, somewhere here, and the rest of the team, and I don't want to start naming names, the councils, the other mayors in the community, the First Nation chiefs in the area. Thank you. It was a real Team Sault Ste. Marie, and when I say Sault Ste. Marie, I refer to the riding, which is the broader sense too, so I include my friends like Ken Lammy and the chiefs. It really was, and when we were down in Toronto, that pitch was amazing. It was great, and I think that we can accomplish anything in this community when we act united. All levels of government, the private sector, the community at large, First Nations. There is nothing that we cannot complete. So I'm extremely pleased to be here. I know what I need to do over the next 4.5 years to support you, and I will continue to be there to support you. I will be there also to make sure that things are done in an environmentally sustainable way, to alleviate any concerns, to make sure that the community is consulted, and the First Nations are consulted, because not only are there opportunities for everyone, including our First Nations, but I think that there's a lot to be said about doing this in a way that can meet truth and reconciliation targets that this government has made. So thank you very much to everyone, and this is just an absolutely awesome day. Thank you ever so much. Thank you.
The real tipping point was the operating cost advantage of being on the Great Lakes, situated where the Soo is. So that was really important because we're bringing in a lot of materials, fluxes, coal, and other goods, and the advantage of bringing them in over the lake, and also of being able to share the infrastructure to unload coal and to unload other materials that Algoma Steel provides was the real determining factor. So that reduced the overall operating costs compared to the other sites and was the competitive advantage that the Soo had.
It's an opportunity for us to take some brownfield property and use it gainfully. It's an opportunity for Sault Ste. Marie as a city to grow, and that would have a benefit to us as an employer, attract more families, more infrastructure, all on the upside as far as I'm concerned.